I count 8 members, Chris. I think just Mr. Lardieri was expected to be late this evening.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we're good to start. Mr. Ladere is our only person we're expecting, but he's late, like you said, so.
All right, let's do it. Good evening and welcome to the October 5th, 2020 meeting of the City of Summit Zoning Board of Adjustment. My name is Stephen Spur and I'm the chairman of the Summit Zoning Board. In accordance with New Jersey Statute 10:4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to a newspaper of record and has been posted in City Hall. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. This meeting is being conducted virtually via video conferencing in lieu of meeting in this council chamber at Summit City Hall. This meeting is being live streamed onto the city's YouTube page. Members of the public can view the meeting by following the link provided on the agenda. Normally, Dennis Galvin is the zoning board's attorney, but tonight we have Andy Ball representing us. Thank you, Andy. Good to have you. Andy will advise board members on matters of law and is the key interface with an applicant's attorney. Mr. Ball, in this case, does not vote on the applications. Chris Nicola is a city employee and is the zoning board secretary. Mr. Nicola works with the applicants on getting their applications together, planning our agendas, and keeping our meeting minutes. Mr. Nicola also does not vote on the applications. Our board consists of 7 regular members and up to 4 alternates. All members can participate in the hearings tonight, but a maximum of 7 can vote. Most applications require a simple majority to be approved. Some applications require 5 affirmative votes to be approved. You'll be told which majority will be required before we begin our deliberations. Mr. Nicola, will you please call the roll?
Chairman Spur,
Here.
Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Here.
Mr. Yuko,
Here.
Mr. Ladere, we're expecting, but he's not here yet. Mr. Steiner,
Here.
Mr. Mullen,
Here.
Ms. Schwartzstein,
Here.
Ms. Hensel is excused. Mr. Millet,
Here.
Mr. Loikitz,
Here.
and Andy Ball is here. He's our board attorney. You have a quorum. You can proceed.
Thank you. We generally hear the cases in the order they are listed on the agenda. We try to have each hearing last no more than 30 minutes, but we do understand that some cases are too complex to be heard within that time frame. Each hearing begins with the applicant or their attorney giving an overview of the application and the variances that are required. We then hear from any expert witnesses the applicant may have to help explain the application and why the variances are needed. The board members may ask questions of the applicant, their attorney, and the expert witnesses. Once the board members and the board professionals are done with their questioning, the public will have an opportunity to ask questions. This is not the time to tell us what you think about this case. That opportunity comes at the end of the hearing. Before you ask your questions, we need to know who you are and where you live. It is important that our court reporter be able to keep a clear and accurate public record. Please state your name before speaking or asking a question, and please do not talk over each other. This is even more important under the current circumstances. After all witnesses have been heard, members of the audience have their second opportunity to speak. And at that time, you may express your opinion, positive or negative, about the application. Then the public hearing is closed and we go into executive session where the board members discuss the case and vote. You'll be able to listen to our executive session, but you will not normally be able to participate in the discussion. Most applications are heard and decided in the same evening. If a case requires additional information or testimony that cannot be presented tonight, we will carry your case to another date and it will not be decided tonight. Krista Anderson, the city's zoning officer, has asked that I remind all applicants that they must read carefully the resolution that documents the zoning board's decision and to pay particular attention to the conditions contained in the resolution. For example, if a landscaping plan is required, you must obtain one and submit it to John Linson, the city's forester. If a grading plan is required, you must have one prepared by a civil engineer and submit 3 copies along with the application fee to the city's engineering division. Failure to satisfy all conditions in a resolution will result in a delay in approving your application, as it will cause extra work for city zoning staff. The resolutions documenting the board's decision will normally be available 1 month after we decide the case. When I call your name, please tell me how many witnesses you have and whether you think you can complete the case within 30 minutes. So first on the agenda for this evening is Anjali Patel, 16 Ashland Road. Ms. Patel, or her attorney if saw her.
Sorry, I'm
Oh,
here.
there she is.
The trouble with the mute button. I have myself here, and I have my architect, Doug.
Hello,
Hello, Doug. And you think you'll be able to complete in 30 minutes this evening?
definitely.
Yes.
All right. I like the assurance.
I
of
hope
that.
so.
Okay, there you go. Back it off a little bit. All right. Second on the agenda is Brian and Sarah Fitzsimmons, 23 Winchester Road.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Samantha Alfonso of Dempsey and Sheehan, here on behalf of the applicants, Sarah and Brian Fitzsimmons. We have 3 potential witnesses, 2 definite witnesses. One is will be in reserve in case any engineering questions come up. And we definitely will be done within 30 minutes as well.
Cool. All right. Third on the agenda, Nicholas and Mary Jo Canone, 4 Iris Road. Speak now. Nicholas and Mary Jo. No, no takers. All right.
I think he's on mute.
Is he on mute?
I think
Sorry.
Nick is trying to speak. And
Oh,
if
there he is. There, I can see Nick. Sorry, I'm searching my bingo board here.
But he's
Nick, you
he's
wanna unmute
muted.
real quick. Look for the microphone button on your.
There it is.
There you are. Hi, Nick.
There
Yep, you got it. There you are.
My wife, Mary Jo, and I are both here.
Okay.
We have 2 witnesses. We have our architect and our engineer, and we expect to be able to complete our presentation within 30 minutes.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. And finally, the 4th on the agenda this evening, William Gardner at 33 Badeau Avenue. I see. William, Mr. Gardner, or your attorney?
He's muted as well.
I see him working.
Yeah, he's working on it. There you
Can you
go.
guys hear me?
Yep. Bye, Mr. Gardner.
I don't know. The computer audio is not working, so I'm both dialed in and on audio.
We can
So
hear
I'm here
you.
representing myself,
Okay.
and I have one witness, Steve Hochstein, our architect.
Cool. All right. Excellent. And you expect to complete within 30 minutes if we're able to get to
I
you?
really hope so.
All right. Excellent. So we're going to start at the top of the order tonight, Anjali Patel, 16 Ashland Road. And just a reminder for everyone on the call this evening, if you're not speaking, we would just kindly ask that you mute your line just to keep the audio clear for our court reporter. So Ms. Patel, if you'd like to kick us off, we just would ask for you to provide a little bit of background on your application before we pitch it over probably to your architect for the bulk of the case.
Sure. So I'll just start off by saying that I moved to Summit in December of 2018. I really love living here and working here. I love my house and my neighborhood. I'm submitting an application to redo my garage so it can better
I think you
fit
need
my
to swear
car.
in, Steve.
Oh, sorry, Mr.
You
Ball.
guys
Can
You okay?
there we go. Now we can hear you. Sorry, Ms. Patel. We're going to have our attorney swear you in real quick.
Sure.
Trying to
Go
jump
ahead
in
on.
there, but I guess I was still on mute. Can you just
That's right.
raise your right hand, and anyone that's testifying, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
All right, and please state your name, spell your last name for the record.
It's Anjali Patel. My last name is Patel.
Thank you.
My name is Douglas Miller, Miller, from AHM Architects, located in Millburn, New Jersey.
All right. Let's begin again. Sorry, Ms. Patel.
I was saying that I moved here in December of 2018, and I love working and working at the hospital and living here in Summit. I love my neighborhood and my house, and I'm looking to redo my garage to better fit my cars.
Anything else you'd like
Right,
to share?
so-
with the applicant? Oh, sorry. Just want to make sure we give the board members an opportunity to ask any questions. Any questions for Ms. Patel before we jump over to the architect? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Thank you, Ms. Patel.
Thank you.
And then Doug, just to be clear here, we have sworn you in. We also want to acknowledge your credentials. Could you just give us 3 boards that you've recently presented before here in the state of New Jersey?
Sure. Chatham Borough, Millburn, Livingston.
Excellent, thank you. So we'll accept your credentials and you can pick it up from there.
Okay. So it's a pretty straightforward application. The house is in the R6 zone. It's on a 59 and change by 130 foot lot. So it's a little bit narrower than required in the R6 zone, but it's a very, very deep piece of property. The house has an existing detached garage. I could pull up and share the drawings and we can kind of go through them. Might be easier for everybody to kind of to look at.
Yep, please.
So this is the same drawings that you have in front of you. What we're talking about is this garage here in this area is an existing detached garage. It's about 38 feet from the house. It's 18 by 18, so much smaller than what is typical for a 2-car garage nowadays for a modern car. So what we're proposing to do is demolish the garage because it's in disrepair and construct a new 2-car garage that's 24 by 24. We're going to keep it in the same location in relation to the house, 38 feet, but we're going to slide it over from the property line. The existing setback right now is only 1.4 feet, and we're going to slide it over to 4 feet. We're designing it in a way that would be conforming if it was a detached garage, which it is. But in your ordinance, I guess we'll need a C variance for this because it's not in the required rear yard, which would be all the way back here, which would allow it to be that 4-foot setback. But because we're placing it closer to the house, we require an 8-foot setback. So that's the variance we're asking for, a side yard setback, 4 feet where 8 feet is required. The reason why we placed it here is because if we place the garage all the way in the rear, it would be about 113 feet from the house. And that's just not really practical. To park a car all the way back here and walk back and forth from the house didn't make any sense. I looked through the comments from the various departments, and the biggest concern was the amount of impervious coverage. Although we are conforming to all other requirements of the zone, moving the garage back that far would increase our coverage significantly, almost 800 or 850 square feet, which would really max out our lot coverage. So by bringing it closer, we're going to minimize the amount of impervious coverage. And we're also preserving kind of the light, air, and open space in the backyard. If you go down Ashland Road, all the detached garages along that side of the street are all in a line. They're all that same distance. So if we pushed ours back, we would be the only garage in that location. And when you look at the connection between this lot and the street that goes catty corner to it, there's kind of a nice green open space that combines all these backyards. Pushing our garage back in that location would really ruin that. And so we thought that by keeping it in the location, sliding it over to a conforming accessory use setback would be a reasonable compromise. We're, as I said earlier, we're taking a 1.4 foot setback and making it 4 feet. So we're really improving the relationship between the garage and the neighborhood and the neighbor. So I think we're going to have really minimal impact. The deep lot in combination with the existing non-conforming placement of the garage really, give us few options of where to place it. So I think placing the garage here, I think the benefits outweigh the detriments. I think, by constructing it here in the rear yard, it's very difficult to see from the street. I think it's going to be more attractive than the existing garage. We're going to, as I kind of scroll through to the next page, you can see it's an attractive garage. It has some nice materials. We're going to be using materials that complement the existing ones on the house. So the garage looks like it was built originally as part of the house. We have some nice pleasant roof lines. We're going to do a carriage type door on the front of the garage. So overall, I think it's going to be quite nice improvement to the property. It's also going to allow them to take their cars that park in the driveway and create clutter, visual clutter for the neighborhood, and be able to pull them in the garage and get them out of the driveway. So I think overall, I think it's going to be a benefit. It's also, like I said before, it conforms to all of the requirements. And, overall, I don't think it's a detriment to the master plan of the city of Summit. So, I think that kind of covers it. It's a pretty straightforward application. So I'll open up to any questions.
Mr. Dower, if you'd like to kick us off, is there anything in the engineer's report that we should be aware of? I saw a note about stormwater management, but I'll let you dig in if you feel it needs to be investigated further. Oh. Off mute.
I think they should look into putting in a seepage pit to handle that increased impervious.
I heard that real quick there. Did you get that, Doug? That was, I
Yeah,
think
so what we're planning to do is put in a seepage pit or a dry well to handle the increase in impervious coverage. Obviously, we'll design it to take all the runoff from all the new structures and put it into the dry well. And obviously, we'll design it in conformance with the town engineer's requirements.
So we would ask, just as a condition of the application, that you accept the engineer's letter in whole, for which the the stormwater management component is a portion of that letter. It's a call out.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? I agree with you, Doug. It's pretty straightforward. Any other questions from board members with regard to the application?
I have a question. Maybe this is already covered because you said that they're going to conform with the engineer's report, but it did mention the shed, and there's a little shed behind the existing garage, I guess. So is that going to be removed then?
Yes, we're removing the shed. There's about a 50 square foot shed here. So we're going to remove that. That again will kind of open up the backyards and create more open space.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Seeing none. All right, Doug, I think you did a nice job there. We'll revert back to the applicants now. Ms. Patel, or I think Dr. Patel, I think I saw maybe on your Zoom link there. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing, just to wrap the case before the board moves into the deliberations?
No, just thank you for looking at my application and considering it.
Okay, thank you. And then I'll just pause for a quick second. Are there any neighbors here for questions or comments? I didn't see anyone for this particular application. Before we move into the deliberations, wave your hands frantically or hop off mute. Oh, there we go, Mr. Burns. All right, if you want to hop off mute. Oh, can you unmute yourself, Mr. Burns? Sorry, we can't hear you.
I apologize.
Oh, there you are. Sorry, did you have any questions for the architect or the applicant, or any statement you'd like to make?
No, I didn't get the architect's name again, and what is it?
Yeah, my name is Douglas Miller.
Okay. And that's AH Architects?
AHM Architects in Millburn, New Jersey.
Okay. Yeah, I live 3 doors down on Ashland Avenue, corner of Maple and Ashland.
Okay. Just, Mr. Burns, the number of your home?
I'm sorry, 128 Maple Street,
Okay.
which is the corner of Ashland and Maple. We've lived here 34 years.
Do you have a question for the architect or a statement you'd like to make with regard to the application?
I just think that the adjusting the side yard depth or whatever is, I think, is very, very good idea. And I think it's a nice design. And I think it will do very well given the sight lines of Ashland. And I don't know the Patels, but it's nice to meet them on the video.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Burns. Any other neighbors?
If that was testimony, you need to swear him.
Andy, you want to swear him in just so we get it?
Just opinion. I didn't hear any statements or testimonial statements made, but if there are further statements, we can swear him in. If that was it, there's no need to do so.
Okay, thanks, Andy. Okay, thank you, Mr. Burns. Anyone else from the neighborhood with regard to this application, 16 Ashland Road?
Yeah, hi. This is Daniel Hall. I live at 18 Ashland Road and right next door to the Patels. And I just have an opinion I can give, so I don't think I need to be sworn in, but really just stating that, my property line is right against theirs, and currently our garages are effectively right next to each other. So I do think that the overall plan is advantageous, and I'm all for keeping the garage as close to its current location as possible and not backing it up further into the lot, as according to the plans would call for. So I'm all for this proposal.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Can I ask Mr. Hall a question?
Sure. Mr. Steiner?
Yeah, Joe Steiner. Mr. Hall, this application calls for moving the garage further into the property, which adds more impervious coverage and changes the driveway, et cetera. What would your feelings, and I don't know whether the applicant would even consider, if expanding the garage to the 24 by 24, but leaving it 1.4 feet from the property line, which would decrease the need for pushing the driveway further out into the property?
Sorry, just to pause for a moment. Andy, do we need to swear Mr. Hall in if he's providing?
Yeah, at this point, probably it might get
Okay.
back.
Right.
So, Mr. Hall, you have video? If so, can you enable it?
Yeah, hold on one second. All right, there we are.
Great. Can you just raise your right hand? And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name for the record.
Daniel Hall, Hall.
Great, thank you.
And you want to quickly go ahead, Mr. Hall. If you understood the question, please answer. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I would be in favor of keeping the garage where it currently is or moving it to the proposed 4-foot set from the side property line. Either one would be acceptable. Currently, my garage is probably a foot or 2 feet off of the property line on the other side. So, keeping it in its current offset from the property line would be perfectly acceptable. So it's really up to the Patels in that matter. I don't have an opinion one way or the other.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hall. Any other neighbors?
So I
Andy.
would ask the Patels what they think.
With regard to Mr. Hall's statement, just to be clear what we're asking.
To my question of leaving it in that and decreasing the amount of additional coverage.
Okay. Dr. Patel, any opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I would be okay leaving it in its current location, but still expanding it to be 24 by 24.
Right. That's exactly what I said. Right.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would add to that, sorry to interrupt, but there may be some fire code issues that would prevent us from going that close. We may be able to go up to 2 feet, but I'd have to look into the fire code to see what the limitation is. I'm all for bringing it as close to that 1.4 feet as possible. So if the board would go ahead and vote favorably on this application, could we have some sort of stipulation that it could be between 1.4 and 4 feet away from the property line, depending on the fire code?
Just for the record, I kind of like the 4 feet better only because that's closer to being in conformity. So I don't know how anybody else feels, but I would be more in favor of leaving it at 4 than moving it closer.
I don't know. When you look at the streetscape, it seems to make, in my mind, it makes sense in its current location, and it's been there forever. And the neighbor seems to be pretty okay with it too. So I'm good with either, but I just assume leave it alone if everyone is supportive of it.
Question to Chris. What I've proposed, Chris Dower, what I proposed, what does that do to your opinion relative to drainage and coverage?
Well, if they, I don't think it makes a difference because it can still direct the stormwater to the seepage pit. However, I don't know what the difference in impervious coverage is between keeping it where it is or shifting it to the left.
Well, there's all that driveway that has to be added.
I believe they're also removing some portion of the driveway as well.
Wait a minute. I didn't understand. He was garbled. Mr. Dower, I'm sorry.
Try it again, Chris.
I think they were, when they move the garage to the left, I think they're removing some of the existing driveway as well.
I have a question for the architect. If your preference was to leave it close to the property line, why did you propose to put it at 4 feet?
We consulted with Krista Anderson regarding the placement and whether or not keeping that 1.4 foot setback was, too much of an encroachment on the neighbor. And she suggested that, more bringing it to 4 feet would be more consistent with an accessory structure requirement, and that's the setback we should move forward with. So that's kind of the indication and reasoning behind moving it over.
I'll read this for the record.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. There was two people.
No, I think, Mr. Yuko talking, I think that is sound reasoning just for the record. I mean, even if the current neighbor doesn't mind it being so close, a future owner might be happier if it were farther away. That's why I like the idea of moving it.
Liz, do you have any opinion on this? We need another voice to weigh in.
I think the 4 feet would be perfect. Looking at the other houses on Ashland, I think a little space between neighbors is always a good thing.
Just to correct the route, to add to the record, the portion of driveway being removed is 20 square feet, and the area of enlarged driveway is 192 square feet. So we're making a significant change if we leave it where it is.
But that won't matter if you move the garage. You still need that much driveway to park the cars. You see that the garage door is enlarged. You need space to maneuver the cars. So moving the garage is not going to reduce the impervious coverage.
Yeah, it has to.
It's going to happen.
The difference between 1.4 and 4 is a difference. It has to be calculated, but it is a difference.
It'll be minimal.
All right. Well, we'll get to debate when we get to executive session.
Yeah, there's not much debate, but
yeah, I'm going to say as we proceed into executive session, we're going to leave the application as it's been submitted. And we're certainly recognizing, Joe, we can talk in a little bit further depth here about your specific concerns and how that may or may not impact the support by the board members. Any other neighbors want to lend a couple of words before we jump into executive session? All right. Thank you, Dr. Patel. Thank you, Mr. Miller. With that, and Andy, just make sure I'm doubly correct. The only condition I believe that we're applying to the application would be for the acceptance of the engineer's letter.
Yes, and obviously then for you guys to determine whether that minimum setback should be 1.4, 4, something in between in compliance with the fire code, but that's what needs to be discussed now, that being the only other condition.
May I say something quickly, if you don't mind? So I'm Julie's husband, different last name. Do I need to swear in? I think I did at the beginning.
You were sworn at the beginning.
I need your name.
Could you just spell your name for us, just for the record?
Yeah,
one more time?
it's Francis Jayakumar.
Spell it.
Last name is Jayakumar.
And your first name?
Francis, Francis.
And Francis, can you just raise your right hand?
Yeah.
You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say I'm fine with the application as submitted. But if there is the option to keep it a little bit closer to the property line, it would make a difference because our lot is relatively narrow. So, even if it was 2 feet away, it makes a huge difference just because the lot is sort of narrow. So, I'm fine with, what was submitted, but if there is an option to keep even a foot closer to the fence, it would make a big difference to us. That was it.
Thank you very much. All right, let's jump into executive session here, and we can we'll invite the applicants to participate a little bit when we, I think, hopefully settle on a number for this setback. Would someone like to kick off the executive session, the deliberations? Joe,
I guess I should do this.
You stirred the hornet's nest. Go for it, Joe.
Basically, looking at the property, looking at the neighborhood, keeping it where it is and increasing it brings it more in compliance with the neighborhood, brings it more in compliance with what we want and what we always talk about with relative to dealing with drainage. And I just think starting where it is and going over 20 feet reduces the impervious coverage by, and I don't know the exact number because I am not able to calculate that all out, and somebody will have to, but if it was that significant a difference in the space by moving it over 2.6 feet, it's whatever that percentage is what we'd be saving. And I'm in favor of the application, but I think we need to leave it where it is, and I may be forced to vote no if we go for the 4.
And I'll just say the opposite case. I like the application as submitted. I commend the applicant and the architect for agreeing to the zoning officer's.
Mr. Acco, can you speak up, please?
I'm sorry. I'll just state the opposite case. I just want to commend the applicant for agreeing to the zoning officer's suggestion to give a little more space there. I think the architect alluded to one of the primary reasons being fire safety access. It brings the garage more in compliance or closer to being in compliance. And it's kind of odd now to ask them to move it to be more in compliance when they're willing, or it's kind of odd to ask them to put it less in compliance when they're willing to bring it more in compliance. And for that reason, I would strongly suggest that we vote on the application as submitted and as reviewed by all the professionals.
I'm probably more in line with Mr. Steiner's view on this one. And I get the point you're raising, Tom, on, generally we do try to strive to bring things as close to compliance as possible. I guess in this case, we've got a garage sitting where it is. It's presumably sat there for quite some time, and it's worked for everybody. And everyone's saying it works for them as currently constructed. So, I mean, I just assume leave well enough alone. And all right, you want to expand, you go to you leave it where it is on that one boundary and expand on the other side. I think reciting the garage doesn't really benefit everybody, anyone here. It seems to me more a matter of technical compliance than anything else. That's why I'm in favor of leaving it alone. The application itself, I think, we're probably all aligned, and I'm supportive of it. I think it will enhance the use of the home, bring it into the current custom and vogue in Summit, as it were, and do all those things and benefit the neighborhood. And certainly we're talking about the water management. I think it'll benefit it as well.
We would also like to weigh in on the side yard setback. That's the hot topic here. Liz?
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Hey, listen, I'm fine for either one. I think whatever the homeowners is more appealing to them, and backing in or out of their garage, if they're going to redo it, might as well make it sure that it's an ease of way to get into your home, and a safe way, since it's right on Ashland. You want to make sure that backing out or driving out of your driveway is safe. So I'm actually, it depends on the homeowners, honestly, whether they like closure or that in compliance.
I would just also ask if we go in that direction, that we just not go for a blanket, leave it where it is. But the architect suggested taking up Krista's suggestion, talking to the fire department for what might be their suggestion of a minimal improvement in the setback.
I'm hunting for the third objector, or at least one more firm objector. Is that you, Ms. Schwartzstein? Do you want it to leave it where it is?
I agree with Tom, with Mr. Yuko. I think that they're trying to be more compliant. I think it's better to have a little bit more space between the neighbors. I think that any impervious coverage differential is probably pretty small and minimal. So I'm more in favor of moving it to the 4-foot setback, or trying to make it more compliant than leaving it where it is and having it so close. But having said all of that, overall, I'm in support of the project. It's a good project. It'll improve the neighborhood, and we're talking about a few feet. So, I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. All right, Scott, you're crawling out of your seat. Go, man. What's on your mind?
No, I think the setback doesn't matter. It's just that driveway and the width has to follow wherever the opening for the garage is going to be. So if it lands at 2 feet or it lands at 4 feet, it's almost irrelevant. It's not going to have an impact on the impervious coverage. That's all I want to say. I think if it's a logistical issue and they feel like they're going to have a little more trouble going around and turning their cars into the driveway, that's something to consider, but it looks like there's enough space to do that. So for me, the more that the garage slides behind the house is probably the better it is in terms of being a secondary and supporting building to the main building, which is the house.
Okay. Mr. Millay, would you care to weigh in? Everyone gets a piece of this application.
I'm really with the 4 foot. setback as per submission. I think it is having 4 foot on that side and the 2 foot on the neighbor's side will allow any kind of equipment to reach the backyard. Any fire truck can go there. It is an advantage, and I support Tom with that.
All right, and if I didn't give my position away enough here, I am in support of the 4 foot offset. In this case, I think Krista has weighed the benefits and any detriments, and I think true to the best of the circumstances that we can seek here, the 4 foot, while not ideal, is still better than the 1.4 or 2 or 3 or whatever that might be. So with that, I'd ask for a motion to approve, a motion with regard to the application as it has been submitted.
I'll move to approve the application as submitted with, I think there was the one condition we added.
With the one condition regarding the engineer's letter, the acceptance of the engineer's letter.
I'll move on that basis.
Okay. We have a
I'll
second?
second that. I'll second it.
Okay, second, Ms. Schwartzstein. Chris, would you call the roll?
Sure. Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Yuka,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
No.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Ms. Schwartzstein,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Chairman Stern.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Patel. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Wherever you may
Thank you
be.
for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Hope you guys saved some energy for the other cases here.
Oh, I can keep going.
Okay. All right. Second on the agenda is Brian and Sarah Fitzsimmons, 23 Winchester Road, Miss Alfonso.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's great to see all of you, although via electronic media. We're here tonight on behalf of the applicants, Brian and Sarah Fitzsimmons, for their property at 23 Winchester Road, which is designated as Block 3008, Lot 6 in the R15 zone. If I can, Chris, show my screen.
Sure.
Thank you. Chris, is that visible now?
Yes.
Okay, and we'll mark this as A1.
Yeah, that was not submitted prior.
Correct. This is the architectural plans just rendered by yours truly. Okay. This site is a corner lot at the intersection of Portland and Winchester Roads. The existing home is a Georgian colonial located in the building envelope closer to the Portland side than the right south side. It has large front and rear yards, contributing to the practical difficulty and ability to improve this property as a single family home, consistent with the character and style of the neighborhood and modern homes in the area. If I can mark this as A2. What Miss Elizabeth Rush, the architect, has achieved is to balance the left side of the home, the north side of the elevation proportionately with the right. This proposal includes a new bedroom, sitting area, bathroom, office, attic storage, and the creation of a 3-car garage where a small 2-car garage currently exists. There was an opportunity to review the comments of Krista Anderson, where she raised the question about the home having a second unit potentially. This addition is intended to create a guest space, but not a standalone unit or apartment. So based on the comments of Ms. Anderson, Ms. Rush and the Fitzsimmons got together and reviewed the application and came up with a design solution. They used this opportunity to come up with an appropriate and aesthetic pleasing design where the Portland Road previous side entrance was removed. This perspective shows what the side along Portland Road will look like, eliminating that portico. This will be substantially similar to what will actually be constructed. The applicants may consider doing a little bit more articulation, but that would be a late stage decision. This will also decrease the variance requested, creating a setback of about 26 feet. They've also gone and eliminated the pocket door inside the home from the second floor hallway to the proposed addition. It will instead be an open access. There are 2 variances associated with the proposal, including the front yard setback to the Portland Road front yard. It was initially about 22 feet to the small porch. Now it's 25.8 feet proposed to the new garage wall, where 35 feet is generally required. It is noted that it is about 35 feet from the garage wall to the street, as there's no sidewalk. The appearance, and I will mark this as A3 if I can. Will be balanced, as the left side, it was about 35 feet to the street and the right side is about 36 feet. The second variance requested is
Sorry,
for the
just
proposed.
one quick question, Ms. Alfonso.
Sure.
Sorry. Just
Absolutely.
with regard to the photos, when were they taken? And I only mentioned that because it looks like this latest picture is an image capture from 2013 from Google Images.
So this is a Google image. I do have a picture that was taken by Miss Rush, I believe. If you'd like to see that, it just doesn't show the full.
If you can just attest that the conditions of the property are substantially similar to as they exist today, that's fine.
Absolutely. Yes, the conditions of the property are substantially similar to this photograph.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the second variance is for the proposed driveway width within the required front yard of 31 feet, where 12 feet maximum is permitted. The existing driveway is currently non-conforming in width. The small addition to the driveway, I will show you on A1. And I'll mark that in green. This is this small area here is the expansion of the existing driveway. That will allow access to the new garage. The driveway is 15 feet wide at the curb line. The main section is just under 11 feet wide. Ms. Anderson, her comments show that this is a violation of the ordinance regulating width of the driveway in the required front yard. Because it is a corner lot, this side along Portland Road is a front yard, and that creates the need for the variance here. It should be noted also that the rear entry garage also contributes to this because it's not front facing. If it was a front facing garage, which we believe is a less attractive design than this, the driveway could be just the width of the garage opening. The benefits to be gained by this proposal, providing the applicants and the community with an improved architectural appearance, balance, and providing the applicants and their family with a functional living area substantially outweigh any detriment. And if the board should have any questions of me at this time, I'd be happy to take them. If not, I would ask Ms. Rush to be sworn, or I'm sorry, first Ms. Fitzsimmons to be sworn in to give testimony.
So any questions from the board or our engineer for Ms. Alfonso? Understanding we'll hear from the applicant and a number of witnesses if necessary. Hearing no questions, Ms. Alfonso, you're welcome to press on. We'll just need to swear the Fitzsimmons in.
Sure.
Simmons, if you can raise your right hand. I'm not sure if you're on video yet, but.
Yep. We can see him. Go for it. Yep.
Or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matters, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Do.
Do.
And please state your name, spell your last name for the record.
Brian Fitzsimmons, Fitzsimmons.
Sarah Fitzsimmons, Fitzsimmons.
What was that for her first name?
Sarah.
Thank you.
Before you do that, I see that Michael's joined us. Michael, when did you get here? You're
I have him at 8:10 p.m.
Only moments ago.
okay. Well, just
were you here for the beginning of this case? That's the question.
No, only moments ago I joined in.
Okay, grab a cup of coffee and just you can watch, you can spectate. Thanks, Michael. Good to have you. And good eye, Joe. Sorry. All right, Miss Alfonso, you're welcome to pick it up.
Thank you. Thank you. Sarah and Brian, you own the property located at 23 Winchester Road.
Yes, we do.
And what brought you to the city of Summit?
Let's see, after our third child, we were 5 people in a 2-bedroom apartment in the city. So we knew we needed some space. We drove around many towns, and as soon as we saw Summit, we fell in love and knew we wanted to live here. And 23 Winchester is actually the first house that we saw. We walked in and decided it was our forever home. And that was that.
Thank you. Can you please describe the existing home and the conditions of the property?
Yes, we love our house, but it's definitely a bit unbalanced from the front right now. And because we have a corner lot, the side view from Portland also isn't as beautiful as we think it could be. The house has great bones. We've been working on the interior since we purchased it 6 years ago. And we're looking at this to be the final piece of the puzzle for bringing it up to the standard of the neighborhood.
Thank you. And with that, can you please describe what is being proposed?
Yes, we are hoping to improve the interior of the home to be in line with some ideals for modern living, and adding improvement to the architectural appearance and balance from the outside. So this addition would create a functional garage for us, a 2nd floor bedroom and sitting area, an office, all of which we think is consistent with the homes in the neighborhood. You know, COVID has definitely brought a lot of stuff into focus, and we're looking for more private office space for Brian. He's currently in the laundry room in the basement. So getting him somewhere where he could have meetings and virtual phone calls where he's not hearing the kids play or do their online school would be beneficial. And I'm an only child. My parents live in Pennsylvania. So we're hoping that the 2nd floor additions could provide a nice guest area for them, and potentially long-term, even a place for them to stay as they age if they require care. You know, we definitely read Krista's report and had the opportunity to review the plans and decided to eliminate the pocket door and side entrance on Portland. So hopefully that should have addressed any concerns there.
Thank you. Did you have an opportunity to speak with your neighbors, and did you feel they were favorable toward the application?
We did, and every one of them who we were able to speak to directly was favorable.
Thank you. And you retained the experts to assist you with this application?
We did. We retained the services of Elizabeth Rush, our architect, and Andrew Clarke, our engineer.
Thank you. Okay, and you mentioned this briefly, but you had an opportunity to review the reports of the board's consultants, and you agree with them subject to your experts' comments?
Yes, subject to our experts' comments, we agree with them.
Of course. Thank you. I would submit Sarah and Brian to any questions of the board.
Any questions from Mr. Dower? Understanding we'll have an architect and potentially an engineer. First, you can shake your head no if there's nothing. Okay, thank you. Any questions from members of the board for the applicants? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Any questions from the general public? Is there any neighbors or interested members of the public here for this application? Don't see any. Okay. That's it for the applicants. Thank you very much, Fitzsimmons. If we'd like to move to the architect now.
Thank you. Yes. Elizabeth Brush. I believe I saw her.
All right.
There we go.
Raise your hand. And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And again, please state your name, spell your last name for the record.
Elizabeth Rush, R-U-S-H.
Thank you.
Well, Ms. Rush, can you just name 3 boards that you've recently testified before in the state of New Jersey as an architect?
Summit multiple times and Madison.
Any others beyond Summit and Madison?
No.
Okay. All right. We'll accept your credentials this evening.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so with the new Zoom format, I did make some notes, so forgive me, but I'm going to be reading from my notes, so I get everything. Good evening, my name is Elizabeth Rush. As mentioned earlier, I'm the architect for Brian and Sarah Fitzsimmons. I'd just like to read a brief summary regarding the application for 23 Winchester. I'm hoping it won't take too long, just a few minutes, but it will ensure I'll cover all the points we'd like to make. As was previously mentioned, the Fitzsimmons are requesting a variance relief for a 2-story addition that is located at the left side of the home where there's an existing attached garage. The architectural style of the home is a classic Georgian and it was built in 1962. Starting with the existing front elevation photo, I believe Sam's going to pull up. There it is. This is the current state of the house. It is painted white. I know the earlier front elevation was before it was painted. It was a few years ago, but this is how the house is currently. The multi-pane windows, the gable roof lines, and the double height columns at the primary front entry along Winchester Road are in keeping with the Georgian architectural style and present a clean, refined aesthetic. I'd also like to begin by reviewing the first 2 photographic renderings that we have prepared. As is evident in the first rendering from the angle of Winchester Road, the proposed rendering. Sam, can you move it up? Thank you. While designing the addition, it was the intent to keep the existing aesthetic consistent with simple massing, proportion, and symmetry. The existing roof line running parallel with Winchester will be continued at the same height and slope over the new addition, creating a similarly scaled volume on the left side of the large front entry porch. Moving on to the view from Portland Road, the existing view. Thank you. The existing view from Portland Road presented the greatest opportunity for improvement. The existing garage with a roof cupola is not consistent with a Georgian colonial and creates an uneven, unbalanced elevation. To resolve this, the addition provides more massing, more windows, matching shutters, and a slightly lowered second floor roof to create articulation, appropriate scale, and differentiation. I would also like to note that I personally met with John Linson on site to inspect the 2 mature trees shown in the photo nearest the addition, and he certified that the addition would have no negative impact on the trees. This was a priority of the owners that no mature trees would be removed on the property. Now we can move on to the programmatic requirements and the interior. Just to clarify, Krista did have a comment, or I guess a question. She wanted to know if the existing garage was going to be demolished, and it in fact is. It will be taken down. The existing garage from 1962 does not function as a 2-car space and only allows for a single vehicle to be parked there. It's just over 21 feet wide on the exterior, so it's only room for 1 car. Moving to the first floor plan, a standard size, I'll let that focus. A standard size 3-car garage is proposed, the interior width of which is 36 feet. This is a standard minimum for a functioning 3-bay garage, and it will offer direct access to the mudroom of the house, as well as provide secondary stair access to the second floor. Moving on to the second floor. The second floor above the new garage will include a bedroom, suite, and a sitting area. The existing second floor hallway will connect the existing and new spaces and create a seamless and connected floor plan on this level. There is a home office proposed in the new attic area, accessible by a walk-up stair from the sitting area, and 2 windowed shed dormers will be provided to provide natural light and interest to the rear elevation. If you go to the architectural elevation sheet.
I can, Elizabeth, real quick. Chris, this should be A4. This is an updated elevation showing the changes that we made from Ms. Anderson's comments.
Okay.
The overall height of the addition will match the main roof line of the existing house. It's just over 26 feet tall. In terms of square footage, we are compliant on lot coverage at 20.6%, building coverage at 10.8%, and FAR at 18.9%. We believe the proposed design achieves the programmatic requests of the family while also providing balance and scale that the front elevation of the house is currently missing. Just a couple points on the lot property characteristics. If we can go to Andrew Clarke's grading plan. So on the left, you'll see the existing conditions. This has been submitted to the board, so you should have this. And on the right, you'll see the proposed conditions. It is a large lot. It's about 27,000 square feet, and it has 150-foot frontage along Winchester Road and a 180-foot frontage along Portland Road. The character of the neighborhood established a consistent spacing along the front and rear of the property that has been maintained in planning for the garage addition. The proposed 2-story addition aligns with the existing front of the house and is 50.8 feet from the front property line at Winchester Road, where 35 feet is required. The rear of the property maintains a deep lawn that is consistent with the other homes along Winchester as well. And along the 180-foot property line of Portland Road, the short end of the addition is 25.8 feet from the property line. I would like to note that the corner property directly to the rear, number 11 Warwick, maintains a similar setback from Portland Road at 22 feet. As you can see from the lot grading plan, the property line along Portland Road, I believe Sam mentioned this, is 10 feet from the curb. Therefore, the vantage point at the street at this angle, the addition is set back 35 feet from the curb or the street since there's no sidewalk there. We feel this is completely in keeping with the existing scale of the neighborhood and that the lot size can definitely accommodate the proposed improvements. As a result, it is requested that the proposed application for development be approved based on the following reasons. The improvements to the home are in keeping with the character and scale of the other homes in the neighborhood. The addition will be consistent with the architecture of the home and will not be higher than the existing structure, and it will be aesthetically pleasing and improve the appearance of the home. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, let's see if I can get back here. Okay. Does anyone from the board have any questions for Ms. Brush?
Any questions? Same for you, Chris, if you have anything for the architect. The only thing I saw in the engineer's letter was maybe the location of the air conditioning and generator, if that is in case part of this application.
At this point, it is not part of the application, but it would comply with the ordinance.
Okay.
So one minor question. What's the interior width of the existing garage? I know you mentioned the exterior width was 21 feet.
The interior width where they drive in, how wide is it?
I'm just wondering, do they have 2 bay doors existing right now?
They do. Where the 2 bay doors are, it would be exactly 21 feet finish. It's 21 feet, 5.5 inches to the exterior wall.
Okay. It's interesting. My garage is 21 feet and I can get 2 cars in there, no problem.
I think if you want to pull up Sam sheet Z100, you can see the existing plan of the garage, and they have a wall that's right on the inside of that first bay. And because it is a side entry garage, it makes that turning radius hard to use the bay that's closest to the mudroom.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so
Thank
you know, you have a tendency to clip that wall, so they really only use the far bay.
You don't want to nail the house when you're turning into the garage. That's a bad thing.
Any other questions for the architect from the board? Okay, quiet on this one. Any questions from members of the public? All right, hearing and seeing none. You said, Samantha, you have an engineer in reserve. We'll leave it to your discretion whether or not to present the engineer.
That's right. Mr. Joe, would you have any questions for the engineer?
The only thing was they've already included the seepage pit or the dry well, so that's a plus. That covers all the increase in impervious coverage. We mentioned before about the generator and air conditioning, and that you said they would meet the ordinance as far as screening and then also hours of operation. So that's really our only comments.
Of course. Thank you.
So we would just ask as a condition that the applicant accept the engineer's letter. That would be it. That's acceptable, Ms. Alfonso?
Yes, thank you.
All right, great. Okay, then Ms. Alfonso, if you'd care to close, or actually let's ask the public, just as perfunctory measure, if they have any comments on the application. And seeing none, you may close, Ms. Alfonso. Thank you.
Thank you. I would submit the application to the board. Thank you very much.
Short and sweet. All right. We can begin our deliberations. Who'd like to start us off? Tom, you just hopped off mute. Is that you?
Yeah, just in case. I don't want to go first.
All right. Who'd like to start? Let's give Tom a break. Liz, what's on your mind?
I think it's a beautiful addition, and I think the architect blending in the old and the new, it will be a seamless addition, and I would be prone to approve.
Any other comments, pro or con? Mr. Steiner, anything on your mind?
I just have one question that I wasn't 100% clear on relative to the operation of is the generator part of this application or not? I'm not quite 100% sure. And if it is, does the condition include the Dennis's standard exercise on Friday between 12 and 3?
Mr. Steiner, there is no generator proposed at this time, but the applicant would agree to comply with the ordinance.
Well, if it's not on the thing, we're not putting it in the resolution. Okay.
All right, sorry, Tom, I cut you off there. You have something to add?
I want to commend the applicant for making the changes in terms of the entranceway and the pocket door and all that in response to the zoning officer's comment. I respect that there probably was no intent to create a second residential unit, but I'm happy to see that addressed. So I'm very much in favor of the application. I think it's a nice project in the neighborhood, a nice project for the applicant, and I would definitely support it.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? All right, I would just add that we want to note the fact that the fact that the lot is a corner lot adds a degree of hardship to any design or construction on the site. So in addition to what my colleagues have said, I too could support the application, and with that would entertain a motion from a board member.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
And this is just Andy to note, right? The only condition on this was the engineer's letter, which we've mentioned before.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so we have our motion and a second. Chris, you call the roll?
Sure. Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Ms. Schwartzstein,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
and Chairman Spur.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, in the interest of keeping everyone sharp, we're going to take a quick 5-minute recess before diving into the second two cases. So I'm setting my timer. Let's join again 8:39 p.m. To continue this evening's agenda. Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
No, of course not.
Okay. Michelle, all good on your end?
Yep.
All right, let's kick it back up. Next up is 4 Iris Road, Nicholas and Mary Jo Canone. I see you up there. How are you?
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good
All right,
evening.
we'll swear you in and off we go.
Mr. Chairman, I would just note that Mr. Laderi is eligible to vote now for this.
That's right. Where is Mr. Laderi? There he is. I see him. All right. All right, let's, the Canones, if you'd like to begin, we're going to swear you in first and then we'll offer you the opportunity to describe the application.
Okay.
And if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And please state your names and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Nicholas Canone. Last name is spelled Cannone.
And Mary Jo Canone, Cannone.
Thank you.
If you'd just like to tell us a bit about the application and then we'll naturally pivot to your witnesses for more detailed testimony.
Sure. We purchased the property at 4 Iris Road in 2019 with the intention of making it our primary residence. Summit's the ideal location for us and our family. I work in Springfield. I have a CPA firm on Morris Avenue, and my wife, Mary Jo, works at Overlook Hospital. She's worked there for almost 40 years. We have 4 children. Our oldest daughter lives in Summit on Webster Road with her husband and 2 children. And we have 3 other children, all of whom commute back and forth to Manhattan. So we want to be able to take advantage of the mass transportation facilities that are available to us. We purchased the home from an estate, sight unseen. After we purchased the home, we went through it and we realized that there are major changes that had to be made in order to make it suitable for us. What we did shortly thereafter is we hired Karen Califf, a local architect. Her office is there in Summit, and she's one of the witnesses that we have here tonight. What she's done is she's put plans together, which have been submitted to the board. The plans call for a 1- and 2-story addition, a porch, for the most part. That's what the plans call for. There are 2 variances that have been requested. One is a setback variance for steps on the side of the house, and then a building coverage variance. The 2 witnesses that I have are Karen, our architect, and our engineer, Bill Hollows, Bill Hollow, who is also here tonight. We've spoken to the neighbors. We've spoken to the neighbor on the left and on the right, as well as behind our house. They have some concerns which they've expressed to me. One of the concerns has to do with the water flow. And you'll notice in the plans, and our engineer can speak to it more thoroughly, that we plan to put a dry well in the front of the house. The other concern has to do with the Bilco door on the side, as well as the generator that we plan to put there, and the compressor. And we also plan to deal with that through some screening that's part of our plans. I think for the most part, that's what I wanted to talk about. Now I'd like to just hand it over to my witnesses.
Before we do that, just offer the board opportunity to ask any questions of the applicant. Hearing and seeing none. We'll offer also the interested public the opportunity to ask questions, knowing that there will be expert witnesses. You'll have a chance to question as well.
I have a question.
Oh, yep, go ahead, Catherine, please.
Okay. Hi, I was just looking at your plans, and just for the record, are you adding this you're adding a master bedroom and bathroom up to the first floor because it's your intention to stay in this home for a while, or?
Yes.
Yes, we're planning on staying here for the duration. It's going to be our primary residence.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure.
All right, with that, we can move to your first expert witness if you'd like. Your architect, perhaps?
Karen?
Where's Karen?
Hi, I'm Karen.
Oh.
Yes, so the.
Hi, Karen, we're going to swear you in first.
Okay, yes.
Yep.
And do you have video on the? Oh, okay, there you are.
I think she's split, yeah.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Karen Califf, and the last name is Khalaf, as in Frank.
Thank you.
And Karen, can you just name 3 boards beyond Summit in the state of New Jersey that you've testified at recently?
Yes, New Providence, Berkeley Heights, Madison.
Wonderful. We'll accept your credentials and let you proceed.
Okay. Okay, so basically the Canones purchased this property, and we're looking to stay for the long haul, as we just it was just explained. So the first floor plan is basically the footprint of the existing house, and I added a second floor above it and expanded the first floor footprint to accommodate a master bedroom and a master bathroom. The floor plan is very compact. There's really no separate foyer. There's really no living room. The kitchen's not very large, so I tried very hard to keep it as small, the footprint as small as possible, and still designing and accommodating the needs of the Canones. So the side yard entrance on the right, we're asking for 2 variances. One is for the side yard entrance on the right. The steps protrude slightly into the side yard setback, and the main body of the house meets the requirement of the side yard setback on both the right side and the left side, and also meets the requirement of the combined side yard setbacks. So the building coverage variance, we're asking 22.7%, and Bill will explain more about the percentages and the details of that, the site engineer, Bill Hollows. And so basically I kept the footprint as small as possible and still accommodate their needs. And I want to point out that the front porch is 122 square feet, and that's 1.4%. And I put the front porch on to enhance the aesthetic of the house from the street, but it's not actually usable floor area, and it's 1 story and it's open. And then the side stoop, the right side steps are 29 square feet, which also contribute to building coverage by 0.33%. So the total of those 2 elements are 1.73% of building coverage. I just wanted to point that out to you. We're asking for 22.7. So with subtracting those 2 items, it would be 20.97. And I also want to point out that we are meeting the maximum lot coverage. We're not exceeding, nor are we asking for variance for lot coverage. And another element of the design that I want to point out is that the addition on the left side, it's 1 story and it's only about 15 feet high. And I know we're permitted to have a building height of 35 feet. So one of the reasons I had the 1 story portion, it's on the left and it also wraps around most of the back, about half of the back of the addition, is to, we were sensitive to the neighbors, trying to keep the mass small and within keeping with the original houses on the street, and also respecting the neighbors' boundaries and maximizing the openness for the Canones and for all of the adjacent neighbors. And that pretty much sums it up.
Okay. Any questions? I mean, Mr. Dower for the architect. We'll hear from Mr. Hollow shortly. Okay, thank you. I see your no. Any questions from members of the board? This is for the architect. We'll have the engineer next.
Yeah, I have one question, which I probably should have asked the applicant. If the applicant wants to jump in, that's fine. The forester is requesting, suggesting some evergreen.
Wait, I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Mr. Evans.
I'm sorry, I have to look at the microphone. The forester is suggesting some additional evergreen screening because of the addition. Just wondering if the applicant would consider submitting a plan to the forester in response to his request.
Everything that you said, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, you were cutting out on us. If you could repeat that, please.
Yeah, let me just read the forester shall report. There are 2 trees that need to be removed. Although solid fencing surrounds the perimeter of the backyard and it is only 1 story addition, it would be appropriate to add some evergreen screening as needed. So I'm not exactly sure what he has in mind, but normally when our forester makes requests like that, we like to ask the applicant to try to respond by submitting some kind of a plan for his approval.
Well, we plan on fully landscaping the backyard, providing screening for whatever air conditioning units and so forth. And we're going to fence in the entire yard. And then probably plant some evergreens on the inside. We haven't fully thought that out yet. But I would love to have the input of the forester, absolutely.
What we typically ask is for, in this case, the applicants to submit a more formal landscaping plan to the forester to just review with him and address some of his more specific concerns.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very collaborative process. He's great.
Okay, great.
Okay, so Andy would mark that as a condition of the application, submission of a landscaping plan for review and approval by the city forester.
Got it.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Yuko? Sorry, I don't know if there's.
Yeah, one other question. So this is, I guess, more for the architect. The Historic Preservation Committee is requesting hardy plank siding have a smooth finish. Is that something you would consider?
Yes, absolutely. The hardy plank board that looks like wood clapboard comes in 2 textures. One is smooth and the other is a wood grain, but it's like a kind of a fake look. So they're requesting the smooth finish, which is more in keeping with a traditional style. And that's what I would typically specify anyway. So yes, we will meet that request.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for now.
Just to clarify that point, is that already reflected in the architectural drawings?
Hardy plank is reflected, but the smooth finish specifically is not.
Okay. Unless the board objects, I'm not necessarily going to condition the application accordingly, but it sounds like that's clearly the intent of the applicant and their architect. Okay, any other questions from members of the board? For the architect. All right, any questions from members of the public? This is just for the applicant, just for the architect, and just questions, no opinions at this time if we can. Ms. Malloy, I think I see.
Yes.
Just state your name for the record and your address.
Mary Malloy, 61 Canoebrook Parkway.
Okay, please proceed. Yep.
I guess my question is just is there another drainage for the backyard? Because this is a large addition to a small house, and I'm just worried about my backyard taking on all the water since it is a big addition with the patio.
I
I know
think that
the
would,
drainage pit is going in the front. I was just wondering if one is going in the back also.
that would be a question for the site engineer, Bill Hollows, who will testify after I do.
Okay, and then I guess my other concern is the Bilko door on the side of the house. I've never seen one on the side of a house where you can see it from the front. Normally Bilko doors, if you have them, they're in the back, because the Bilko door sticks out about another, what, 5.5 feet?
It
from,
depends upon the height, but typically they're either on the sides or the back. Many projects I work on, they are on the side.
I don't
And
see any on the side anywhere in my neighborhood.
yeah, they are. It's not unusual. And the Canones are willing to put some plantings to screen that.
Okay, because that makes it 5 feet closer to my property. The house is coming back is 10 feet. It is a 10-foot addition on the side on the left side.
Yes.
So then the Bilko door is pushing it, what, 5.5, 6 feet closer.
Yeah, and the required side yard setback is actually for the R6 zone, which is where this house is and your house is. The
Right.
required side yard setback is 8 feet, and we have 15.7 feet on the left side towards your property.
Okay.
So we try to keep that as open as possible. And the Bilko door is low, as you know, they angle up, but they're still very low, so they're not all that visible. From, if you're standing at eye level, they're rather hard to see. So
Well, I
we
don't
will
know.
put some landscaping there.
Okay, because you will see it from the street, which is not something you see around here. It just seems a little ugly. I mean, the house is beautiful. It's beautiful and we welcome it, but the Bilko door just seems a little.
So maybe Ms. Malloy, maybe what we'll do with respect to the condition for landscaping plan is we'll make a particular call out for the Bilko, screening of the Bilko door.
Okay.
While respecting its utility, of course. But
Of course.
Andy's a wordsmith. He'll figure out how to weave that in.
And then somebody else will address the drainage, the additional.
The site
Yeah.
engineer. Yeah.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Any questions from members of the public? See a couple neighbors here on the call. All right, let's proceed then to the site engineer, Mr. Hollows. You swear Mr. Hollows in?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name for the record.
William Hollows, Hollows.
Mr. Hollows is a regular attendee here, his capacity as a site engineer. So Mr. Hollows will accept your credentials and let you dive right in.
Thank you very much. Just try to give you a little background of the property. No one's really talked about it. It's 4 Iris Road. It's lot 11, block 106. It is located on the southerly side of Iris Road. It is in the R6 zone. It contains 8,750 square feet, and it's 70 feet wide by 125 feet deep. It is presently improved with a 2-story frame dwelling, a paved drive, and on my original drawing, the existing condition shows a shed that was back in the southwesterly corner. I was there today and there is no shed. The shed is gone. So I think that came up in a couple reports because it was conflicting in some of my calculations, but the shed is gone. And as stated, we're seeking 2 variances, although in Krista Anderson's letter, the variance for the stoop, although not today, is something that's being looked at as a possible revision to the DRO, where they would let a protrusion of, say, a stoop or into the side yard of 3 feet, which would take away the variance that we're seeking for the stoop. I know it's not, it is something they're considering, and my understanding from her letter was that it's going to go before Common Council in November. In addition, we're seeking a building coverage variance. My number is 22.7%, and Krista Anderson's number is 23.68. I could not rectify her number, but knowing that Krista Anderson, she's always very careful on those things. So I suppose we're looking for a 23.68 building coverage variance. There is an increase in impervious coverage of approximately 1,000 square feet. and I proposed a dry well, which would accommodate that 1,000 square feet. And in this instance, you've got new construction on basically all four corners of the structure. And those, I'm proposing to have those roof leaders drain to that dry well, which is in the front left corner of the property. The reason why I selected that area is if there is an overflow from a very large storm, it wouldn't go to the backyard. It would actually overflow towards Iris Road, go down the gutter line, and be captured in a storm drain that is down at the corner of Iris Road and River Road. That is really particularly why I selected that position. I know from past history, these lots are very flat, and the backyards tend to collect water after a large rain event, and I really didn't want to add to that. Now, I think the two variances that we're seeking are really, there's C2 variances, benefits outweigh detriments. In this house, this is going to be a big improvement. This house has had deferred maintenance, from my opinion, for quite a few years. And this is really going to bring it back to this neighborhood is kind of a neighborhood where you see some new homes and you see some homes where people are doing improvement work to the homes. And for the most part, it's a very nice street, and this will be a complement to that. And even both the Environmental Commission and the Historic Preservation Committee have indicated that this would be a benefit to the neighborhood. So that's really what it is. This renovation, remodeling of this house is really going to be a benefit to the neighborhood. It's certainly not a detriment to the ordinance or the master plan in any way. I did go through Mr. Dewar's letter, and there were some points which I just wanted to go over one by one. I think start with item number 4. And it really talks about the slope of the property there, and it is a very flat piece of property. I think that's probably one of the reasons why there is this drainage problem that the people have after a large rain event in their backyards. Typically, the houses on these streets, this street and Woodland Avenue, the front yard drains towards the street, but the rear yard drains to the rear property lines, and it just kind of settles there. My second comment was from item number 7 of Mr. Dewar's letter, and that is the shed has been removed. And then 8 and 9 has to do with dry well, and I think I covered the dry well there. And I agree with Mr. Dewar that we should do the permeability test for that soil sooner than later. Previous work in that area, the soil is marginal. It's another reason why I tried to select this spot. It looks a little bit higher on the lot too. That possibly we can find some permeability in that soil area. And there was a question whether presently there's a patio on the right side of the house that runs from the house to the property line that will be removed, and there'll just be a walk that comes out from the stoop to the driveway. And then there was a question about the fencing in the rear adjacent to lot 17. And when I was out there today and took a look at that, I believe that that's the fence for lot 17. It's a fence that has a good side on both sides of the fence, but it does stop at the property line, the dividing line between lot 17 and 18, which leads me to believe that it is the fence for lot 17 that they put it up. And I think it's item number 13 has to do with the 2 trees that we need to take down. There's a large silver maple tree there that's definitely in decline. There's some limbs that are off of it. And there's an ornamental tree that would need to come down for the addition. And I did read Mr. Linson's letter. And typically in these cases, I would try to meet with him out in the field and come up with some ideas of where he would want some landscaping. you know, I could do that, or the Canones could do that and then relay it to me for, if the board were to approve it, we could add that to this plan. Or add another drawing for landscaping, you know, to include the Bilko door, something along that property line between the Malloy's property and this subject property, and then the evergreens that he's speaking about. So I think that's really what I have. I think this is definitely going to be an improvement to the neighborhood. And Karen Califf has done a really nice job to incorporate the theme of what's going on that street.
Thank you, Mr. Hollows. Mr. Dow, I'll give you kind of a crack at any other follow-up here. Just ask you pay special attention to, it seems like, some stormwater management concerns from at least Ms. Malloy and potentially other neighbors.
I think Mr. Hollis has answered all the questions, and as he noted, the permeability in the area is not that good. So he'll get the testing done fairly quickly, and then work with the city to get a good design. So we improve the drainage situation in that area versus making it worse. And the only thing that I would add would be the screening. We talked about the screening with the air conditioner, and it would be the hours as a condition. The hours of operation for the maintenance would be a condition that we normally set with this type of an application.
Sure. So that actually, I would expand it to upwards of even 3 conditions. So unless you object as the applicants, would be firstly to accept the engineer's letter as it's included with all of its stipulations, which is a standard condition. Secondly, with respect to the drainage, I would ask that we retain drainage jurisdiction for a period of 2 years, just to accommodate any unforeseen issues. I think that's again some pretty standard language. And then to your point, Mr. Dower, the third one would be to limit exercising the generator to Monday to Friday between, I believe, 12 and 3 is our usual time frame, which in COVID times it's seeming maybe a little out of sync. But let's hope, Mr. Canone, you're not working from home any more than you have to these days.
I appreciate that. I think we're okay with that. What do you think, Mary?
I think so.
Okay. Okay. Any questions from members of the board? And then we're going to offer the public the chance to speak. Any questions from Mr. Hollows?
I do just have one question I want to clarify for a potential condition.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Ball.
As far as the soil permeability testing, I know there was mention that it would be done as soon as possible or sooner rather than later. Is there a particular time frame or a particular sequence that needs to be performed in that we should note as a condition, or is that generally, you know, as soon as possible acceptable to the board?
I would say as soon as possible, maybe around the time that they file for the building permit, because they would need, if the soil's not conducive, they may need to come up with a different design that would have to be submitted to the city engineer's office.
So that would be that it would be before the building permit?
I would say once the resolution has been approved, that would be something that they should work on with all the other preparations that they need to do as far as filing the permits.
But it needs to be done before a building permit is issued.
That would probably be a good idea, because you may have to adjust the site plan. So yes.
That would be my recommendation for the condition.
Okay, so we'll note that as completion of the soil permeability study before the building permits are submitted. Something to that effect, Mr. Ball. You'll get it right.
Got it.
It's normally before the building permits are issued, which means the city can't do it until they're in.
That makes sense. Does that make sense, Canone? Sorry, we want to make sure.
Bill, does that make sense? Is that typical?
That's the normal procedure. You're not going to get a building permit unless you get it through engineering department. So it's going to go building department, zoning, and engineering before you can get a building permit.
Okay.
Okay.
So it would have to be done before you get a building permit.
Okay. We're okay with that.
Okay, thank you. So barring any further questions from the board, I'll open it to the public, Ms. Malloy or anyone else, neighbors that'd like to make any comment or question to the site engineer. That's what we're doing.
So will we get, I'm sorry, it's Mary Malloy again. Will they add an additional drainage pit in the backyard? Or is that what the study is going to do?
No, the study is for permeability of the soil.
Well, the water, it's a swamp back there. Have you been back there after a rainstorm?
I know the area and I have done work on that street,
Okay.
but putting a dry well there is not going to be the answer for that area. What we're trying to do is collect the water from the roof of the house and put it towards the front. And then if it were to overflow, so you have a very large storm, it would actually go out to the street and not be contributing to that area along the back property line.
And not come into my yard.
I think
The overflow, I don't want the overflow coming in.
no, it wouldn't. No.
Okay, so what is this 2 years somebody was talking about? So
we've added as a condition of the application that the board would retain what's referred to as drainage jurisdiction.
okay.
If you or some other interested party were to observe drainage conditions on the site negatively impacting neighboring properties, you could bring that to the attention of the board for further investigation and remedy within that 2-year period of time.
Okay. Okay.
Will the dry well drain to the street?
I see Ms. Espinosa maybe raising a hand. You can hop off mute if you'd like.
Hi,
Is
my
it
name is
just
Marianne
questions?
Espinoza, and I
What do you
live.
have? Go ahead.
Excuse me?
Go ahead. No, you're doing it.
Okay, I live at 6 Iris Road, which is on the other side of this property. I'd like to just start by saying I've met Nick and Mary Jo. They've been very accommodating in terms of sharing what they're doing and listening to my concerns. But some of I have questions, again, with respect to the drainage. I've lived at this house since 2004. And with due respect to you, Mr. Hollows, I guess I have a little bit more experience with this area than you do. It doesn't take a large rainfall for there to be a significant problem with the water.
Hang on, Ms. Espinosa, since we're getting into a little bit of testimony here.
Yep.
You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
And just please spell your last name for the record,
Yes.
please.
It's Marianne, Marianne, last name Espinosa, Espinosa. The fact is that the property at 4 Iris is higher than my property. I can't speak to the other neighboring properties. And the water flow, when there's doesn't have to be a storm, but any kind of significant rain, it's almost like a stream that runs from 4 Iris Road through my property and into the property next to me. So it's a significant problem, and it's not caused by runoff from the roof. It's just caused by the fact that the land is, it's almost like clay, I guess, the soil. So there's a problem with the soil. And while I very much appreciate your willingness to consider other options, with respect, I don't think that the drywall in the front of the property is going to have much impact on the existing condition in the back, which I'm concerned will be exacerbated by, even though it's beautiful as planned and, perhaps not an enormous addition, it's a significant addition, and the trees are being removed that would be very helpful in terms of, drawing some of the water out. So what is being considered to try to, I don't ask you to alleviate the problems that already exist. I appreciate that that's unreasonable, but what I'm concerned about is what measures can be taken so that these improvements, as lovely as they are, don't exacerbate the drainage problem for my property and neighboring properties.
Presently, the roof leader drains that come off the house just go down to the foundation. So the back of the house is going to go towards the backyard. And you're correct that it does slope. There's not much slope there, but it does slope across the lot, or 4 Iris to 6 Iris to going down, because even the street there on Iris Road goes slope. There's a slight slope from these properties all the way down to River Road. And that's what's typical of the backyards here. but we would be collecting all of the
Right.
all the roof leaders from the house. So that right now the downspouts just empty into the backyard. They're going to go out towards the front with this proposal. So that's going to eliminate quite a bit of water that actually gets into that lawn area. You know, possibly a hardier lawn than what's there now. It's not much of a lawn in the backyard, and we are going to be putting additional landscaping in there, you know, in lieu of those trees that are there, which is should be an improvement also.
And Ms. Espinosa, further to Ms. Malloy's point as well, this is an excerpt from the engineer's letter for which the applicant has accepted as part of any final resolution here. I'll quote, it says the applicant shall be aware of stormwater runoff drainage problems occur on their property and or neighboring properties as a result of the construction of the proposed improvements. It is the applicant's responsibility to remedy that drainage issue. So it's a very clear statement that if there is any negative impact were to occur as a result of what we may or may not approve tonight, it would be the responsibility of the applicants to address those.
I appreciate that, but I'm sure that the standard in terms of any impact is kind of hard to measure. And I'd just like to say that to the extent that I can cooperate in any kind of effort to try to remedy the situation, I'm happy to be involved in that. I think I told you that, Nick.
Yes, you have.
Yeah.
We'll work together on it.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Ms. Espinosa. I see Mr. Kane. Ms. Espinosa, those are your questions for now?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see Mr. Kane down there.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Would Mr. Ball like to swear me in, or?
We can accept testimony, or if you just like to offer questions, it's leave it to you.
So I just want to expand upon some of the comments by Ms. Malloy. And
So if you can just, sorry, Mr. Kane, just state your name and your
beg your
address.
pardon. So Peter Kane, number 3 Iris Road. So I'm cat a corner across the street from number 4. I have not yet had a chance to chat with the Canones, but I hear that they've been really very, very present in the neighborhood, and we appreciate that. But and this really is a much larger question, I think, that we're talking about here in terms of the drainage. And one of my concerns, and I'm just using this as an opportunity, and Mr. Chairman, please tell me if it's a better forum, is I think one of the challenges, and Mr. Hollows touched on this, is that there are no sewer drains.
Yeah. Mr. Kane, let's pause for a moment. Let's swear you in, and then we'll let you have full reign to do anything.
I thought you'd want to.
Let's do it. Go ahead, Mr. Ball.
Confirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name for the record.
Peter Kane, Kane, 3 Iris Road.
Thank you.
Okay, so as I was saying, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the problem here, not just with this property, but a number of properties along Iris Road, both front and back, is the lack of sewer drains or sewer drains in the street level, the entire length of Iris Road. So the only sewer drains whatsoever on Iris Road are all the way down to the end of the city block on River Road itself. We have none up at our end of the block. So I think part of the remediation, and I don't know if this is a larger engineering question for the city or a larger sewer question for the city. Certainly, I wouldn't necessarily expect the applicants to solve this for the entire block. But I would ask the board and the chairman to give us some guidance as to how we could have greater stormwater runoff and sewer lines put in at the curb level. And I think that would be a way for us to take the water that is accumulating in some of the backyards and direct it towards the front into some of these sewers, as opposed to just going out to either the yards or the street.
Mr. Hollis, you want to provide any perspective with regard to this specific property? And then Mr. Dower, if you want to jump in as well. I mean, I don't want to say limited to Iris Road, but certainly the Canoe Parkway area, I've seen regional stormwater management issues over the years. So Mr. Hollis, will let you start if you want to provide any kind of color commentary there.
Well, I agree 100% that there is very inadequate storm drainage system in the neighborhood. And that includes not just Iris Road, Woodland Road also. There is no drainage. There is some drainage on Canoe Parkway. It's just that you can't get to it from Iris Road because it slopes towards River Road. I think other than money, which is really be city money, I think you could remedy a good part of the problems or make them better or livable. If you had some money to extend storm drainage, and then you could have a couple branches to go off into the down the property line and put a couple inlets in there to collect the water, and then maybe regrade down along the property lines if possible, if you get the folks to work along with the city on that. But I think you really have to start with talking to the Common Council that this is really a problem it's a regional problem over there. It's not something that an individual lot can remedy. They can do what they're, in this case, the ordinance says that we have 1,000 square feet of additional impervious coverage. We have to try to do something for that. But this is more of a regional problem. And believe me, I've driven around that neighborhood quite a few times looking for a better solution, but there is none without spending considerable amount of money to extend storm drainage up both Woodland and Iris Road.
Just to kind of round that out, Mr. Hall, what would be the anticipated impact for this property if the application were to be approved? Would it contribute, not contribute? Would they see no difference in terms of?
I don't think you're going to see it. If providing everything works as designed, you should not see a difference. Maybe a little improvement because, as I indicated, right now the roof leaders just drain right to the backyard, and these will be taken out to the front. So it should be a little bit of an impact, a positive impact in this case. And again, I think too, if this property has suffered from deferred maintenance for years, and I think if you have a nice lawn there and some additional plantings, that's going to help also. And maybe some of the plantings can be plantings that can habitat they can live in with wet feet, so to speak. Live in a little bit of water, like some of the river birch or something like that. Different kinds of plants that maybe we see all the time in plantings for homes in the area.
And that would just, to the applicants, that would just be something to note as you develop your landscaping plan in conjunction with Mr. Linson to show some sensitivity to the retention of stormwater on the property.
Okay, we plan to do that.
Mr. Dower, anything else you want to add to that portion of town's chronic stormwater management issues?
Yeah, I think I agree with Bill that everybody's aware that area does have some issues. You could contact the city engineer's office to see if there's any studies that are around that they can rely on or that they can refer to, and then also suggest that maybe the city consider doing some additional drainage improvements in the area.
Further questions, Mr. Kane, or comments you'd like to share?
No, I think just the only other just minor comment is I am sad to hear that at least one or both of those magnificent trees in the backyard are going to have to be removed. I've been in some significant conversations with Mr. Linson about tree removal on Iris Road. Clearly, we neighbors, and I think the Canones would agree with this. One of the beauties of Iris Road is the gorgeous canopy of trees, especially at the sidewalk line, and we're losing that. So I'm loath to see any mature tree other than those that are dead or in danger of being taken down. So I'd register my unhappiness with seeing a beautiful mature tree being taken down as part of this project. But other than that, no further comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Kane, and Mr. Ball, if you can, I'm really going to push your limits here. If you can weave into that landscaping plan condition, some sensitivity to the mature tree canopy where possible, you'll earn a couple extra points with me tonight. So that'd be wonderful.
I'll see what I can do.
Thank you. Thank you. And I understand from the Canones, they'll make an effort too. I think that's likely an attribute of Iris Road that drew them there, and they would like to contribute to if they can.
We'll do our best.
Well, as soon as you take down a tree, don't you have to replace the same amount of trees?
If it requires a permit, right, that's often a conversation that Mr. Linson will have with the applicants or the permit, the submitters in that case. So yeah, I think you're likely talking about a fairly comprehensive landscaping plan here to address the generator, the Bilco door, stormwater management, a lot of different attributes. But I wouldn't consider this necessarily a small project. So I hope that is something that you can recognize to be a need and a real benefit to the application. Any other questions from the public for this? We're still kind of with Mr. Hollows here. So we're talking site engineering, stormwater management.
That's what it is.
Okay, hearing and seeing none. I understand a couple of the members of the general public had an opportunity to inject some of their commentary along with their questions, but we'll open, as I understand, Mr. and Mrs. Canone, that was your last witness for the case?
That's correct.
Okay, so we'll just offer the public one more opportunity to share their comments, pro or con, with respect to the application, given the conditions we've discussed. So I'll pause for a moment.
Just one more question. The storm drain or whatever that is that's going in the front, since you said you're not putting one in the back, how big is the one that's going in the front? Like how many gallons is it going to hold? And
It'll collect water, 3 inches of rainfall from 1,000 square feet of surface area.
okay. And does
It's
that,
a 6-foot diameter dry well, 6 feet deep in a 10 by 10 gravel trench.
so they don't have a tendency to overflow very easily then?
It may be more towards a hurricane,
Okay.
a very large storm event. And I know Summit's had a few of those with the
Right.
cloudburst type storms.
Okay, so then when the overflow is going to go towards the street, then if it does overflow.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, and you can't see that, so that's underground. So, okay, thank you.
Ms. Malloy, barring any further comments from the public, I'll offer the Canones the opportunity to just conclude their case with anything or nothing.
I think we're good. We're looking forward to beginning the construction. We're hopeful for approval tonight.
Okay, wonderful. So before we jump into our deliberations, Andy, let's review the conditions. We were throwing around a lot there.
Yep, I've got 5 of them. First is accepting the engineer's letter with all stipulations. Second is that the board shall retain drainage jurisdiction for 2 years. Third is submission of a formal landscaping plan to the city forester for review and approval. And that landscaping plan is to specifically address screening of the Bilco door and maintaining the tree canopy to the extent possible. Fourth is that the hours of operation of generator maintenance shall be Monday through Friday between 12 and 3. And the fifth and final condition is that the soil permeability testing is to occur before the issuance of a building permit.
And I would just clarify for the general public here that when we say the exercise of the generator Monday to Friday from 12 to 3 is not every day, Monday to Friday from 12 to 3, it's typically monthly. That's what a generator requires. So don't worry, your lunch hour is generally safe.
I believe it's, if I remember Dennis's standard language is that it's Friday, 12 to 3.
It's typically Monday through Friday, but it's also once a week. At least for the generator I have, it's once a week, and it's only for 10 minutes. So it's basically a 10-minute test. At least my generator is once a week. But our condition is Monday through Friday at the applicant's choice.
Okay. With that, I'll offer a member of the board to kick off some deliberation. Let's see. Joe's been good. Tom's been good. Liz has been great. David, you're up, man.
Oh, fine. I don't know. This is an interesting one because I live in the neighborhood, and I can see the water problems every time there's a significant storm. I mean, it seems like this project isn't going to exacerbate any existing conditions. If anything, it'll have a marginal benefit by taking what runoff is going into the rear of the property and reroute it to the front where it can certainly be less obtrusive. So, based upon that and the fact that they're taking a property that has not been well tended to and bringing it into a better state that will beautify the neighborhood, I am in favor of this proposal, with the understanding that the board is retaining stormwater management jurisdiction. And I would expect the neighbors, if things do get bad from this addition, to come back to us so this would be remedied. I think that's one thing the applicants are going to have to be very mindful of, that if this plan doesn't work out, there could be significant costs to them down the road.
Thank you, David. Mr. Lardieri, any comments?
Since I can't predicate my approval or disapproval on the storm drains being put in, where Mr. Kane astutely pointed out, and also Ms. Espinosa and Ms. Malloy, I will almost mimic what what David just said. I don't believe this addition will, based off of Mr. Hollow's testimony, would exasperate the stormwater runoff. It may decrease it to a point. I hope so, and be managed better. I'm hoping that increased vegetation would also help absorb some of the water. Do I believe it's going to eliminate it? No, I do know the area well, and I do understand the drainage issues down there. I hope the applicant, and along with the residents, and can solicit the city to help. I don't think it's going to alleviate 100%, but if stormwater drains can be put in where they should be, it probably would eliminate quite a bit more, other than what the applicants can do on their own with directing the drainage further away from backyards and other residences' property. So I would approve it as well, based off of that.
Any other comments from the board in favor, or Mr. Malay?
I'm in favor for this project. However, there's one concern that concerns me. During construction, I think you should be careful doing the construction during hurricane season or big storms, because that might affect. So during construction, special attention to storm drainage must be included. Otherwise, I am in favor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Malay. And then we'll of course echo everything that's been said prior. And I think without the strong conditions that we've included in the application, I wouldn't be able to support the application. But because of them, because of the conditions, which I believe are a real opportunity for concerned neighboring properties to address any issues that may arise over the course of construction, but also I see in the applicants willing partners, willing new neighbors to collaborate on issues as they do arise, and that there's an opportunity to make this a real net positive for the neighborhood for all the reasons mentioned before, and I'm sure others that we may be missing tonight. So I too could support the application, and with that, we'll entertain a motion from a member of the board.
I'll move to approve the application with the conditions as outlined.
Okay, we have a second.
I second. Michael Larderi.
Larderi. All right, Chris, you're what's the roll call?
Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Gaudieri,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Ms. Schwartzstein,
Yes.
and Chairman Spur.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Ken Owens. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, one more case to go, and then a little bit of housekeeping, and be a heck of a night here we've had. All right, 33 Badeau Avenue. Mr. Gardner, you still with us?
I am.
All right.
So can you guys hear me?
We can hear you all right. We're going to swear you in and let you begin your application.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name for the record.
Sure. William Gardner. Last name is Gardner.
Thank you.
So, yep. So I'm Bill Gardner. My family and I moved to Summit about a little over a year ago. We have 3 young children, a 5-year-old boy and a boy and girl twins that are about 2 years old. We picked our house because of its location and yard. we feel the exterior of our home doesn't necessarily reflect the style of the neighborhood or our personal taste, both in the front and the back. And we wanted to address those points as well as being good neighbors and kind of bringing everything to a little bit more uniformity back to the look of our house with the neighborhood. So a good portion of our plans relates to the basement. With 3 active kids and a large extended family that visits often, we wanted to adjust the flow of the house. The kids use the basement pretty much every day right now. It's not exactly inviting, even though it's a walkout basement. And since we have, like I said, a very large extended family that comes to visit often, we wanted to put a little bit of space in between them and us for our sanity. So, we have our family members are younger and older, and sometimes stairs are a little bit of a difficulty. So we also wanted to try to make sure that everything had easy access to the backyard to spend time with the kids, and create an area that was good for entertaining with everybody. So that's kind of the gist of what we're looking to do. We did note that in some of the comments from the various city offices, there were a bunch of positive small comments. One of them did stand out, which was replacement of one of the trees on the east side of the backyard. I wanted to note that those trees that go down and create the privacy screen actually sit on our neighbor's yard, who's been doing extensive renovations. 2 of those trees actually died off based off of water runoff from their renovations that they've since corrected. They're in the process of replacing those trees. So as to that comment, we've been assured by our neighbor that both trees, even though they only noted one, will be replaced in the very near future. So Steve Hochstein has been our architect through this. He's been very patient with us, and I'm sure that after you have any questions for me, that we'll be able to fill in any questions you may have on the plans.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Gardner. Any questions from the board for the applicant, Mr. Gardner? Hearing and seeing none. And then I'll just pause as well. Are there any members of the public here? Looks like our numbers are dropping off, and that's okay. Hearing and seeing none at this moment. No questions there. We can proceed to Mr. Hochstein, the architect. Andy, will you do me the honors?
Yep. Would you please raise your right hand? And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And please state your name, spell your last name for the record.
My name is Stephen Hochstein, last name Hockstein. I'm currently a licensed architect in New Jersey, and I've testified in front of numerous boards: Milburn, Madison, Chatham, and Summit, and Livingston.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Hochstein. We'll accept your credentials. Welcome and proceed.
Well, Bill was very good in introducing this and saved me a lot of my work. But basically, they hired me to improve the aesthetic on the rear of the home. I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully this will work. Did you get it? Okay. Currently, the house. Can you see this? What I'm sharing here, the photograph?
We can, and just to be clear, Mr. Hochstein, were these previously submitted?
Yes, they were submitted, and they were taken by me last November.
Okay, excellent. Please proceed.
One of the things that they wanted to do is get rid of this double height space on the front of the house. So that's part of the scope of work. And the other part of the work was what they call the Game of Thrones rear deck. They wanted to get rid of as well and make it less massive on the back of the house. Another thing that they wanted to do was take this rear deck area that's on the second floor and enclose it as part of the master bedroom. If we go to the plan, I'll show you that what we're doing here is this area under the deck is already covered space on the outside, as you can see, this area here. The only addition that we are asking for is this little space, which amounts to 44 square feet of additional space. Unfortunately, the way the zoning is in Summit, because of the slope of the lot, you have a grade plane that's approximately halfway down between the basement and the first floor. By adding this little bit of basement area, the definition of the basement now becomes a story, which triggers some what look like some big variance requests, but it's really a definition of the floor area of the house. Just to show you some other things that we wanted to do is the existing master bedroom, and I'm sticking to the work that's directly affecting the variance. There's a lot of other interior work that we're doing that is not relevant to the variance. So unless you want me to go through all the details to save time, I'm going to stick to the issues that are affecting the variance. So right now, the master bedroom is here. The entrance to the bathroom is over here. And the only place to put a bed is on this wall. And there are windows on this side of the house. So what we're proposing to do is take this deck area and incorporate that into the master bedroom. It does a few things for us. It gives us a little more privacy with the right side neighbor because we're eliminating those windows, and it allows us to put a bed on this wall or this wall. And then somebody gets up, they can get into the master bathroom, they can go into the closet, and they can exit without disturbing anybody that's sleeping. So it improves the function of the master bedroom. On the lower level, the first floor, one of the things that happens is wrong floor. The existing kitchen, which you can see over here, has no really relationship to the deck. In order to get from the kitchen to the deck, you got to go through this little opening into the family room and go out the doors here. The other thing that happens is right outside of the study, there's a guardrail right in front of the door. So if you look at the elevation, you can see there's this railing right in front of the door. So as part of our work, we're improving the flow from the kitchen and adding doors there, taking this wall out here and doing what most people want now is more of a big open kitchen eating area. And then you can come out of the study and you're not walking right into a guardrail here. So those are the changes on the inside. On the outside, like I said, we're eliminating this big two-story element and we're making it a little more in proportion with the house. So we're getting rid of this big, I'll be nice and just call it ugly. One of the other things that we're doing that's important to this project is we are eliminating this basketball court here. So the impervious coverage on the site is being reduced by almost 900 square feet. So with that being said, we're asking for a few variances. One of them is the 11-foot 6 side yard variance, which is not really encroaching any further on the neighborhood than what's on the right side neighbor than what's there. We're just doing a vertical intensification, which is enclosing this space here. And then the floor area variance and the basement variance for adding a story are related in the fact that by enclosing this space here, which you can see right here, even though all of this is already underneath the deck, it doesn't count as basement because by the definition in Summit, because it's open around the edges, it's not counting as basement. So we're adding 592 square feet of basement, but in reality, only 44 more square feet of the space is not already under the deck. And like I said, the variance for the basement is being triggered by the fact that the slope of the lot is generated by this grade plane now that it redefines the basement as a story in the basement. And if it wasn't for the basement floor area, we'd only be asking for a 246 square foot variance. And the difference is we'd only be asking for a 26.25% variance. So the variances we are asking for, sorry. Just give me a second to get there. We're asking for a variance for the building, the amount of stories, which is becoming from a 2-story to a 3-story. And we're asking for a floor area variance of 38.87. But like I said, almost 13% of that is because of the basement. And then we're also asking for a side yard variance that Krista Anderson pointed out to, because the new rules haven't come into effect yet, that this egress wells are encroaching 3.3 feet into the side yard, which when the new ordinance comes out, it would only be a 0.3 square foot variance. Some of the reasons that we believe the variance should be approved is that the addition is virtually on the rear of the house. We're removing these right side bay, which is on this side of the house. On the first floor, there is a bay that we're eliminating windows on the right side of the house. And we're also improving the curb appeal of the house. And lastly, we're reducing 900 square feet of lot coverage. And we feel that what we're asking for is very reasonable, and that most of what we're asking for is triggered by the fact that the definitions of the floor area and the building height are being affected by the fact that the basement is now considered a story. And we think that the application has a positive impact for the owners, and there's really no detriment to the town. As a matter of fact, it's improving the aesthetic as far as the curb appeal. Even a historic commission has agreed with us. One of the questions that the historic commission did ask is what materials we're using. And I just want to share the screen one more time and show you that we're going to match the hardy board and the details and the dentals and everything, so that the addition on the house is going to look very seamless. And with that, we ask for your approval.
Questions? Mr. Dower, anything you'd like to mention in the engineer's report?
They actually covered everything. There's as they noted, like a 900 square foot decreases in impervious coverage. I would just ask that again, the generator be exercised during the week hours between 12 and 3, I believe we talked about as a condition. Even though it's an existing generator, and there is also a lot of screening already, so I think.
Okay. Any questions from members of the board? Hearing and seeing none. My only question that I had was with regard to impact on, there's very mature screening along the right side of the home, that right side property line, which those trees may be on the adjoining property. But just curious if you anticipate any impact during construction on that screening.
No, and we're not doing any excavation or change on the ground on that, excuse me, on that side of the house. So there won't be any impact to those trees.
Okay. So Mr. Gardner, the two conditions that come to my mind that we would just ask to add to the application would be acceptance of the engineer's letter, which is standard. And then though the generator is pre-existing, we would just ask you to abide by limiting exercise to weekdays between 12 and 3 p.m.
I can do both of those things.
Excellent. Any other questions from the board? It's not that late yet, guys.
I have a question.
All right, go ahead, Kathy.
Mr. Gardner, just out of curiosity, what are you doing with that space under the deck right now? Your Game of
So the previous homeowners have a hot tub that was under there. We are not hot tub people, but it is currently still there until we start renovation and get it removed. And then our kids, I actually play like nights and all that kind of stuff. So it's really not being used for much.
Thanks. I was just wondering, because it does look very dark under there.
It's terrible. And the ceiling is very low because the upper deck is slate. So it's a very thick, I guess, support system for it right now.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. We'll pause, and I don't see any members of the public, but give them an opportunity on the record to offer any further questions or comments. Hearing and seeing none. Mr. Gardner, if anything you'd like to say in closing with regard to the application before we enter deliberations?
No, it's late, and I appreciate any approval that you guys, are able to give, and we love living in Summit, so thank you.
Cool. All right, thank you, Mr. Gardner. Thank you, Mr. Hochstein. This seems like an architect's. Where's Scott? Scott, you want to kick off the deliberations? This is an architect's application, so tell us what you think.
I think it's a clever design solution. I think they're packing a lot of improvements into a pretty small footprint and taking advantage of that the sort of change in levels. So I think it's a nice design solution. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Mr. Millay, would you like to add something? No. Okay. Mr. Steiner, never one for at a loss of words?
No, I think it's a beautiful addition. And just going by Environmental Commission, who says reconfiguration improves the functionality of the house and does not diminish the exterior appearance, which I thought that was the highest compliment they could ever give to you. So kudos to you.
Cool.
Thank you, and thank you, Steve.
Just like to add some thoughts. When I look at it first, your first impressions sometimes aren't the right impressions. And my first impression was that they want to add a story, and there's a large FAR variance, and is that reasonable? You can look at what drove that, and it kind of mitigated the impact of what sounded at first like really pushing the envelope. And where's Mr. Hochstein? Don't take a shot at Game of Thrones. Was that you who said that? Maybe it was the applicant.
No, that was ours. That was when we bought the house.
Client.
It was.
I'll vote in favor.
We love it too. We just don't want to live it.
I'll vote in favor of it anyway.
All right. Barring any further comment, yeah, I would just recognize as well that the decrease in impervious coverage is particularly compelling to support the application. In addition to, I agree, the aesthetic improvements to the front facade of the home. So with that, we'll entertain, well, actually, let's pause just for a moment. As Andy, if you'll just reaffirm for us the conditions before we do vote that are applied to the application.
Yep, I didn't have any others aside from the two that you noted, those being accepting all conditions in the engineer's letter and that the hours of operation of generator maintenance shall be Monday through Friday between 12 and 3.
Great, thank you, Andy. With that, we'll entertain a motion.
I motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. O'Leary.
And I second.
Thank you, Ms. Newell. Chris?
Okay, Vice Chairwoman Newell.
Yes.
Mr. Yuko?
Yes.
Mr. Guardieri?
Yes.
Mr. Steiner?
Yes.
Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Ms. Schwartzstein?
Yeah.
And Chairman Spur.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Mr. Gardner. Thanks for hanging in there so late this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr.
Take care.
Hochstein. All right, let's get our administrative work done here so we can all head off to bed. Chris, will you start us with resolutions?
Yeah, first is 27 Linden Place, application number ZB 20-2016. Eligible voting members are Vice Chairwoman Newell, Mr. Yuko, Mr. Guardieri, Mr. Mullen, Ms. Schwartzstein, Mr. Millay, and Chairman Spur. We need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Guardieri,
Yes.
Mullen,
Yes.
Ms. Schwartzstein,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Chairman Spur.
Yes.
Okay, next is 17 Elm Place, application ZB 20-2015. Eligible voting members are Vice Chairwoman Newell, Mr. Yuko, Mr. Laderi, Mr. Mullen, Ms. Schwartzstein, Mr. Malay, and Chairman Spur. We need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second,
Vice Chairwoman Newell,
yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Laderi,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Ms. Schwartzstein,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
and Chairman Spur.
Yes.
And last one is for 47 Lennox Road, application ZB 20-2008. Eligible voting members are Vice Chairwoman Newell, Mr. Yuko, Mr. Laderi, Mr. Mullen, Ms. Schwartzstein, Mr. Malay, and Chairman Spur. And need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Laderi,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Schwartzstein,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
and Chairman Spur.
Yes.
And we have a set of minutes from September the 9th to approve. Would somebody like to move that?
I'll move the minutes.
So moved.
All right, we'll give Tom the motion and we'll give Mr. Laderi the second.
Okay.
In favor?
Aye.
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 All right, seeing nobody opposed.
All right. And then the sixth item is regard to Morris Habitat for Humanity. Joe, you're recused from this, so you're welcome to exit for the evening if you'd like.
These two.
Yeah, and Catherine as well. Okay, so you guys can, if you'd like, this is the last item on the agenda, so we'd ask you if you're going to stay just to mute and withhold any comment, or ideally you can head off to bed early. So this is Morris Habitat for Humanity, 146 Morris Avenue. Really all we're asking to do, there's no, in my opinion, discussion to be had necessarily. You were forwarded a settlement agreement between the applicants, objecting neighbors, and then I believe the city of Summit was also a party to that agreement. So all that we're being asked to do is to vote to accept this settlement agreement, and then it'll continue on its way elsewhere, notably before the governing body here in Summit. So if there's any questions, we'll entertain them. Otherwise, we'll just ask for, we'll do a roll call vote on this. So we'll need a motion, a second, and then just, Chris, we can capture everyone's vote.
I'll move to that we support the agreement.
Okay, have a second?
I will second that.
Okay. Chris, call the roll.
Yeah, Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Hold on.
Yes.
Mr. Laderi,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Mr. Voigt's,
Yes.
and Chairman Spur.
Yes. Okay, that's the last item of business for the evening, just a hair under 10 p.m. With that, we are adjourned. Thanks everyone for hanging in there tonight.
Hi, everyone.
Good night.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
All right, good night, and no executive session, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris.
Let's have one anyway.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
No.
Thanks, everyone.
Night, everybody.
Thank you.